Hello and welcome back to V8 TechWorks. So today we are going to continue building our backend. In the last video, we looked at how our models will look like. For example, here you can be able to see this model for our user. User will have name, email, password, and then we have status and then the role here. You can see the schema here. Also, if you come back to the donor here, also you can be able to see their schema here that we looked in the last video. So if you haven't gone through the other video, or the last video, make sure that you go through it so that you'll be able to understand what we are doing in this video. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to close this donor here, and then I'm going to be left with this out.js here, because in the last video also we looked at how we'll be able to register a new user. So for example, here you can see register user. So I'm going to create a logic now for the login user right here. So remember to like this video and also subscribe to this YouTube channel and also turn on the notification bell. So let's get into the tutorial now. What we are going to do is that when you are logging in, first thing first that you need to do is to make sure that you can be able to find the user in the database. So we are going to use the user's email. So first thing I'm going to do try catch, so that if we have error we can be able to catch it. So here I'm going to just, for example, check if there is any user that has a certain email that you are going to send. So here I'm going to say const user, and then here I can say await. So here I can also add a sync right there. And another thing that I want to do is that here I need to have a request and then a response. And then let's check here if we have that user. So I'm going to use user here, and then I'm going to say find, this is the function for MongoDB. So find one here, right there. And then inside here, I can be able to look for the email field. And then here I'm going to check the email that I'm going to send using request.body.email. So email, I'm going to send it from the user side. So this email will be checked in the email field here in the database. So if we have that email, or we have found that email in the database, that means that now we have that user in our database, and now we can continue with authentication. So what we are going to do is that also here, so let me just come back here, and what we are going to do is that if we don't have that user, we need to send an error message. So here I'm going to say, and user, here you can see exclamation user. That means if user is not present, then what we need to do is that we need to return a message which we are going to send using status here. So rest or status, and then the status here will be 401, or even 404 is okay because it's not found. So here I'm going to say JSON, and then here I'm going to say you have not registered. So I think like that you can see you have not registered. And then after that, now that means if we have checked if the user is available or not. So that means if we don't have any user, that means our operation will be terminated right here. So after, if we have the user, then we can proceed. Now to proceed here, we need to first of all make sure that we decrypt the password, because remember right here on our register, first thing that we do is to encrypt our password before we save it in our database. So now what we are going to do right here is to make sure that we decrypt the password. So I'm going to decrypt the password. So I'm going to say const hashed password here, like that. We need to first of all make sure that we can be able to decrypt now the password. I'm using crypto.js. You can be able to see crypto.js. And now I'm also going to decrypt using the same algorithm that I used to register. For example, you can see the algorithm that we use to register here is AES. So we are going to use the same algorithm, and then this time is decrypting. So, and then the other thing, when you are decrypting, this password requires several things. For example, the first thing that you are going to require is the password, and this password now is from the user that we have found from the database. So we are having the user right here. And the other thing that we are going to require here is the password or the phrase that we created in our .env. If you remember, right here, these are password. These are this phrase that we are using to encrypt the password in our we are using this passphrase here to encrypt the password. So we need to make sure that also we are using it to decrypt the password right here, because if you don't do that, that means that they will be inconsistent, and you will find that the password cannot be decrypted because there is this need for this passphrase here. So now the other thing is that we need to do several things. For example, we need to first of all get the original password now, and to get original password, we are getting that original password from now the hashed password. So hashed password here, let me type it here. So hashed password dot toString, so you can be able to see that password dot toString, and then inside here I can be able to use crypto.js. So we have this crypto.js, and then I'm going to use encode here, and then I'm going to use UTF-8. So this one here, right there. So that is how now you can be able to get this original password. And now what I'm going to do is first of all compare now this original password and the password that the user will be able to send to our backend. So I'm going to say if original password here, like that. First of all, we need to check if the password is not the same. So if not the same, that means you need to use exclamation mark and also this equal sign. So I'm going to use this hashed password right there. So actually not the hashed password, sorry. This one should be the password from the user, and the user is sending the password using request.body and password here, like that. So right here, you need to, if the password is not the same, what we are going to do is to return, and then here we are going to return another message, which is res.status here. And then after the status here, we need to have like a message. So which message you are going to just send here? We are going to send a message which is wrong password. So here we need to send wrong password here, like that. So wrong password. And then now if now we have gone through these stages. So the first stages is to make sure that you have that user in the database, and we are using email to see if that password if that person is in the database. And then if that person is not in the database, that means that we need to send this error message here, you have not registered. After that, then the other thing is that you need to check for the password or to decrypt the password in the database, because you cannot compare password that is encrypted and the password that the user is sending to a backend. So that's why you can see here we first of all decrypt the password using the passphrase that we also created in our .env file here. You can see this pass here, and then after that we can be able now to compare if it is not or they are not equal. That means we need also to send error message here, wrong password, that will notify our user that they have used a wrong password. So another thing is that also if we do that now, if we have a correct password, there are several things that we need to do. First of all, we need to have the password and the other info. So that means we need to separate the password and the other info, and I'm going to show you why. So here, this one we are getting it from the user and then underscore doc, and then after that now we need to create the first thing that we need to create is access token. So the access token, we are creating it from JWT, So if you remember, we imported JWT on the top here, on top of this page, you can see we have this JWT here. So after that, now we need to first of all sign. So we need to sign using the JWT. And the first thing that you need in order for you to be able to sign is the information that you want to sign with. So for example, that will be an object. So this object, we are going to have an ID. So I want to just make sure that I sign using the user ID. So I'm going to do user and then underscore ID like that. And then the other thing that I'm going to make sure that I sign with is the role here. So I'm going to use role, and then the role here is user dot role like that. And these are the only thing that I want to make sure that I sign this AWT or the access token with the ID of the user, and also the role here for the role here for this person or this user. So another thing that you are going to require, another passphrase here that we are going to use. So I'm going to call this passphrase. So it should be in .env, and I'm going to call it JWT underscore sec like that. So after that, now we need to create this passphrase in our .env. So I'm going to come here and under JWT, so JWT underscore sec, yeah, and I'm going to create anything and any passphrase that you want to use. For example, we can take any characters here like that, and it should be strong. If you, for example, want to deploy your application, it should be strong so that any hacker cannot guess the JWT passphrase. So also here, the other thing that you want to specify is the time that you want your access token to expire. For mine here, I'm going to specify it to expire in at least 10 days, or you can specify what you want it to expire. So here you can see it's 10 days, and then now we have the access token. So first of all, let me format my code. You can be able to see now we have this access token. So after this, now we can be able to send now the information to our front end. So here we are going to have rest.status and then 200, then .json, and here we need to send the data to our user, and this information can be stored in maybe Redux toolkit and maybe persist, so that when the user able to log in, we can be able to use that information and maybe use to display their information in their application, the front end, that is. So here I'm going to add the object, and remember here we destructed our information, so I'm going to send back the information, so I'm going to send this info here, for example, and also we can be able to send now the access token. So I'm going to send the access token like that. So I'm going to send this information here, and that's why I distracted from the password, because there's no need to send the password to the user, because this can pose a security risk. So that's why we distracted the password and the rest of the information, and that's why I have sent now the other information plus the access token, because using this access token we can be able to know if this access token is valid. Then we can be able to at least make sure that that user can be able to do things like access some data in our database. So I'm going to make sure that I add it there. So here we can just do rest.status and then 500, and then we can send now the error. So the error should be sent here like that. So after that, now here we need to export these two functions because we are going to need it in our routes. So I'm going to format my code like that, and then here I'm going to do module.exports like here. So module.exports, and then here I'm going to send login user. You can be able to see it, and also register user. So register user like that. So this information here, we can use them in our routes. So we need to create the routes in our routes here. So we need to create another auth.js, and then here is where we at least have all the routes that we are going to create in this for registering or for authentication, and that's why we are calling it auth. So here the first thing that I need to do is to import express like that. So require express. So express here. Another thing is that we need to make sure that we create router. So router here, and this is from express, and then we call the router here like that, and then we need to expose this router. So let's export module.exports, and then we need to export this router like that. And then now inside here we can be able to first of all add the register router here like that. So let's do that router, and then here we need to actually add now the router dot post, because this will be post method. Here we need to first of all start with the login, and then for the login here I'm going to use now the login user here. You can be able to see login user logic here, or the function from our controllers, and if we do that, you'll be able to see that it has been imported on the top of this page here. So another that we are going to use is login. So I'm going to say login router right here, and then here I can say router. So our router here, and then dot post, and then here we need to have register like that, and then here we need to have register user like that. So we have those two functions, and now the last step that you need to do is to make sure that these routes also have been registered in our app here, app.jx. So in our routes here, the other thing that we need to do is to use app.use, and then here we need to have for example, as API here version 1, and then version 1 here, and then out like that. And then here we can create now the router. So let us import that router. So const, and then here we need to have out router, or the out route, let me call it like that. Here we need to require here from, we need to get it from, let me go to the controllers here, not controllers actually, it is routes. So from the routes here, so let me just import it here from the routes. I cannot be able to see the routes, it is here, and then I'm getting it from the out here. So let me import it like that. So here we can add now out and then route like that, as simple as that. So now we can use our Postman to be able to test this application. So I'm going to save this, and in the last video I mentioned to you that you need to actually install this Postman. So let us just make sure that we open our Postman. So another thing that I want to make sure is that our backend is still running and there is no error. So I'm going to open a new terminal here and check for the backend. You can be able to see here that our database has been connected successfully. So let me also come right here, and let's make sure that we have everything that is required. I think this, we can close it like that, and let me push this down because already our backend is running. There's no error at this time. So here this one is still loading. So we are going to pause for a while, and then when we'll have finished loading, then we'll continue with our video. So right here the Postman has open. So what we are going to do is that to use the Postman, you need first of all to create the collection here. You can be able to see that we have a collection here, and if you want to create your collection, it will be such an easy task. So you need to come here, and in this icon that is you can see this icon here, plus icon here, you can be able to create a new collection. For example, if I click on that, I can create a blank collection right there. And then these two, you can see I have created just two, but I wanted one, so I can just make sure that I delete one here. But in this case, I'm going to just have only one. So let me try and delete this one if because we are not going to need this. So this is very crucial to know how to use Postman. So for example, in here I cannot be able to see how to delete, so it is here. So let me delete it. So I have deleted this one here. So for this new collection here, you can call it the way you want. For example, mine here, I'm going to click on these three dots here, and I can go to rename here, and I can call this like Brad donation. So Brad donation app. So Brad donation app like that, and then save it like that. And then inside here, I can be able now to create request. For example, I can click on these three dots here, and I can add a request. So add request here, I'm going to create the request that I want. For example, if I want to create a request for registering the user, but before that I want to rename this request here, so that I know what is we going to happen in this request. So I'm going to make sure that I add here. So let me add something here. So for example, I'm going to rename it. So this one will be register user like that. And then also inside here, we are going to have maybe another one for login user. So add a request, and then make sure that you rename it. So it is still loading, and then you can click on these three dots here, and make sure that you rename. So rename this to login user like that. And then now, if you want to make a request, for example, for register user right here, we are going to first of all make sure that we specify the method. So in our case here is a post, and that is because if you come to the routes here, let's come here to the routes. I think this one here, actually it's not this one. Let's go to the routes here. You can see on the out here we are using post. Post for login and post for register. So let's come here and specify this is a post request. You can now be able to specify the route here. For example, for this case, you can be able to see, you can type maybe this HTTP localhost, because this is a localhost. You can be able to see the localhost and also the port that your backend is running. For example, mine is running on port 8000. And again, now this is the route that we are going to test. So it is API version 1, out, and then register. This means that this route or this request here, first thing that it will do is that it will hit this route here, and then this is, you can see this is localhost, and then /API /version 1 /out here. So like that. So you can come here and specify that, and then after that it will check here for the out. It will be able to come here and see that we need to also to go to the out route here. So it will just go to the out route, so this one. And then when it gets here, it will be able to see that also we have another route. In our case here, the other route is register here, this one here. So after that, then it will be able to see that it needs to also go to functionality for register user. So it will go to the controllers here, and this is what it will be able to do now in the register. It will try to register this user using the name, the password, and the other things is I think the name, the email, and then the password. So let me try and register this user now. So to make sure that you send the request, you need to come here to the body, and remember it is a raw data, and then here you need to specify the data that you are using, or the format of the data that you are using. You can see several other format, for example text, JavaScript, login, and many other, but we are not going to specify the other ones. The JSON is the most common, so I'm going to come here and specify, for example, the name. We are going to require the name. So here we are going to have my name here, for example, and I'm going to call myself John Doe. Here I'm going to specify the email. So the email here is my email. So let's add that like that. And then the other thing is the password. So password, you need to make sure that you use these quotation marks here. And then here you need to, first of all, let me add maybe something like Brad donation, and then at 1 2 3 4, like that. And now we can try and send this request, because now we have everything that is required for our backend. So I'm going to hit send here, and then let's try and see if it will make a request, and then if it will save it will be able to save this data. So here you can be able to see that the status code is 201, which is very good. That means it has created this user in our database. So then also you can see, because after we register the user, then we send that user back to our the user. So you can see this you have created, and also you can see the password here is encrypted. The other thing is the role here has been created as admin, because we specified that by default it should be added as admin. Also right here you can see the status is 0, and the other thing is the ID here that has been created by MongoDB. So now the other thing is to make sure that you can log in. So I'm going to come here and try to log in. So for this one, I need to change now the port number, which is 8000 right now, and also then we need to log in now. So here I need to go to the body, and then the row here we need to go to the JSON here, and here we need to send the email and the password. So this is email. My email here is the one that I have specified right there, and then the password. So we have a password here like that, and then the password here, remember, is Brad donation. Let me see it. So this one, Brad donation at 1 2 3. So I can be able to copy this one. So let me copy it and then come here to the login and then paste it inside here. So that is the email and the password, because these are the ones that you are going to require to log in. So I'm going to hit send, and after that you'll be able to see that the API version 1/out here is not found. So that means there's somewhere that we did a mistake, and I'm going to go back here and then let's see where we did the mistake. So for example, this is login user, and I think I have in our routes here, I never created that route. So actually we have it, this login here, and it's telling me that it cannot find that route. So let me see where the problem is. So the register here, so for this one is API version 1, and then out, and then login. So let me see where the problem is. So I'm going to try again and then see. So cannot get API version 1 out. So let me check here in the app dot here. So here we have all the login, and then let me just go back, because here I can see that we did actually everything that it was required. So I'm going to come here also to login user and see maybe what is not right. So let me just come back here to the controllers here and see if that function is right here. So let's see. So we have the login user and register user. Already I have seen where the problem is, and the problem is because here we forgot to specify the method, and by default it took that this is a get method. So we need to change here the method to be post, and then after that we can try and send now this request, and you can see here you have not registered. So that means this error is coming from, let's go to the controllers here, and right here we can be able to see that this error is coming from this part here. So we are sending the email right here, and right now you can see it is sending me you have not registered. So that means that this user is not in the database. So let's try and see where the problem is. So I'm going to try again. So you can see this is not registered, and I want to see like the data, for example. So let's come here to the raw data here, and then you can be able to see this is a email. You can see the email here, and also this is a blood donation. So let me check here if the email that I used here is the same one. So this is the email here. So I think there's somewhere that there's a problem. So I'm going to check for the email here, and then the other thing is we can try, let's try and maybe console log. Let me console log the email and see if we can get the email here. So let me do that. So here, and then so now let me send that data now. So if I do that, and then actually we have registered this user. So let me just go back to the login here, and then when I send this, and you can see could not get. So that means maybe there's a problem with our backend. So I'm going to push this up. So I'm going to push this up here and see if there is any error. So first thing, let me restart my server here. So my server will start on port 8000 here, and also the database has been connected successfully. So let me try again now. So it is telling me that could not get. So that means we have an error here. So the error is the email is not defined. So you can see the email, they are telling me that email is not defined, and I know why. So let me come back here. It should be actually request dot body and then dot email, like that. So it should be like that. So let me save this like that, and then let's try again now. So let's send the data here. So if I do that now, you can be able to see that this user has been has logged in, and I don't know why we had that problem earlier on, because already the email that I'm using is the same. So here you can see the name is James Doe, the email, and here also you can see the role is admin, and the access token here has already been created. So using this access token, we can be able to verify that it is a valid token, and also it has not expired, so that we can give the user access to the data, and also verify that he or she is an admin. So now that is we have done the authentication part. The other part now that we are going to concentrate on is the donor. So we are going to create the functionality for the donors here. So I'm going to cross for the out here. I'm going to cross this part for the this part also for .env here, and then for the out here. So we are going to concentrate on this part here for the donor. So we are going to first of all make sure that we import donor, and we are going to import donor from donors. So here I'm going to add donors from the models, and then donor, like that. Then right here we can be able to create the functionalities. For example, we are going to have the create donor. So create donor functionality, and here we can be able to create this function. So const create create donor, like that. So this is another function here. So let's create this one here. So this one we are going to require the request and then the response right there. We are going to have now try catch also there. So here we need to have several things. For example, we are going to have a new donor. So create a new donor right here. And then this new donor is, we are going to await first of all, or not actually, we can just make sure that we first of all make sure that we have the donor here, and then after that we are going to pass in the data from request.body, like that. So that means the data that we are going to send here to create donor, all of it we are going to make sure that we add it in here in request.body. We are going to send it to donor, and after that the other thing that we are going to do is that we are going to create a donor right there, and then the donor here we are going to first of all await. So here means that we need to add a sync, like that, and here we are going to make sure that we add now the new donor, or we are going to use now new donor here, and then dot save, like that. We need to save that donor right there. And then the last thing is to send this donor. So I'm going to add status 201 because that is for creation. And then here we are going to make sure that we send that donor back to our front end. And then here I can just say res.status and then 500 and then .json, and then now here we have the error, like that. So then here I can be able to just format my code. So I have formatted my code, and then now we can have the other functionality, and the other functionality here is to get all donors. So get all donors right here, and then these donors here we can, is a very simple also. So we are going to create a function here, get all donors, like that. You are going to have a function here that has a request, a response, and here we can be able to make sure that we add now the information. So the first thing is to try catch here, like that, and this will be very easy. So try catch this one here. So we are going to have donors variable here. So donors, and then the donors we are getting is all donors. So I'm going to add a sync here because this will be a synchronous function. So I'm going to await here and say donor and then dot find, like that, dot find, and then that's all that we are going to require here. And then because I want to be sorted, so I'm going to sort in a descending way. So that means the latest donor to be created will be on the top, because if you just do donor.find, then that means that the donor who was or who has been created recently will be on the bottom. So that is to create the, to make sure that you have been using, or you want the donor who has been created recently to be on top of the data. So you're going to use sort here, and we can use created art here, like that, created art, and then here we can be able to use -1, like that. So created art and then -1. So here we need to send these donors to our front end. So I'm going to use test.donors here to 200, and then I'm going to use .json, and then here we are going to use donors, like that, and that is the simplest way. So here I'm going to use status and then 500 and then .json and then the error, like that, simple as that. And then now the other thing is we need to have the other part, which is update the donor. So update the donor functionality right here. So this one we are going to have const, we are going to use const function here. So this one we are going to call it update donor, and then this one will be actually also be very simple. So update donor, this one is a function that has a request and also has a response. And this one we are going to have the functionality here, so try catch, and then here we can be able to have the donor. So const updated donor like that, and then here we can be able to say await. So here I need to add async as usual, so async, and the other thing is we are going to use now the donor. So the donor dot, here we are going to say find by id, so find by id and update. This is the function for MongoDB. So find by ID, so I need to change this or to update this. So find by ID and update, so like that. So here we need to, first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we pass in the ID, and the ID we are going to pass it. So let me just come here. So we are going to have request.params and then .id. That means that we need to pass the ID so that MongoDB will be able to understand which donor to update. Also, the other thing is we need to set here. So set, and then the other thing is here we need to have request.body. So update using the data that you are going to send using request.body. And the other thing is to make sure that we add another option here, which is true to be new, so that we be able to update that donor. So the last thing here is to make sure that we have sent this here. So I'm going to use rest.status and then 1. So here I'm going to add the updated donor to be sent to my front end. Now, if I have error here, also I'm going to make sure that I send that to my front end. So this is rest.status and then .json, and then I'm going to send the error right there. I'm going to format my code. So let me format this. So you can see update donor, and then here we are going to have another part which is get one donor. So get one donor like that, and then here I can be able to see that we need to create consts and then get one donor like that, and then we can have request response, and then here we can be able to have this one here, the functionality right here. So try catch like that. So sorry. So try catch, can be able to see this option here to be able to create that, and then here we can be able to have the donor that we are going to get. So I'm going to use donor here, and we are going to say await. So this one, it is async here. So async. So for the donor here, I'm going to use donor dot find by ID like that, and then now you only need to pass in the ID. So request dot params and then dot ID like that, and then now inside here now we can be able to send this donor. So here is 200 and then .json, and then here is the donor, sorry. So here we need to have the donor like that. So now the other thing is that we can have now the other part, which is the error. So if we have error is 500, here we can have it JSON, and then here we can send the error right there. So you can see how simple it will be. Here I can be able to format my code, And then now if we find that one donor, so there's another functionality, and the functionality for deleting the donor. So delete donor right there, and then this one will be also simple. So const delete donor like that, and then this also is, you are going to have a request, you are going to have the response, we are going to now be able to have the functionality here. So try catch, and then so let me have here try and then catch like that. Here we are going to have this this donor here. So this one I'm not going to send any donor to our front end. So this one we are going to be async, and then here we are going to do a very simple thing, and that is we are going to have the donor, and then we are going to say find by ID. So find by ID and delete. So this is the function for the MongoDB, remember. So this one is delete, not delete. So here we are going to pass in the request.params and then .id like that. And then now the other thing is to send now just a message. So res.status, and then here we are going to have 201 and then .json, and we can say on this message we can say donor deleted successfully like that. And then here we can have now status, and then we can have like 500 JSON and then error. So you can see how simple it is. And now we have only one that we, or the other one is the for statistics. So I'm going to add it as stats here. And also here I'm going to add const, and then here we can say get donors statistics or stats. I'm going to call it stats like that. And then here we are going to have request and response as usual. Here we are going to have now the function. We're going to have try catch, and then here the first thing that we are going to do is to have the statistics. So const stats like that, and then here we need to specify what we want in our statistics. So first thing, we need to aggregate the data. So let's aggregate here. So aggregate like that, aggregate, and then we can aggregate first thing. So let me add here, because you can see we have error. Let me add async here. So and then here we need to aggregate, and what do we want to aggregate? So here you can see we have this object, and then actually this one should be just array first of all. So let me add it there, and then after that we can have this object here, and we need to use a function to group like that. And then here we are going to have to group by ID underscore ID, because that's how the MongoDB works. And then here we want to group by Brad group, so I'm going to add here Brad group like that. And then the other thing is that here we are going to have count. So we are going to have a count here, and count here we are going to have a sum. So sum here, and then you need to add 1. So that means that we are going to have number of people that have a certain blood group type. So that's the statistics that you are going to have. But right now, because I know you not be able to maybe understand, we are going to test that, and you'll be able to see what I mean. So here I'm going to add test.status, and then here this one is 200, and then .json, and then I can just send the stats. And then the other thing is here we are going to have test.status here, and then this one will be 500 and then .json, and then here the error. So we are going to have the error. So now the other thing that I have been left with, so let me format my code here. So the other thing that have been left with is to make sure that I export all these functions. So I'm going to do module.exports here, and I can be able to, for example, import export delete donor, get one donor, get all donors. So you can be able to see it here, and then things like get stats, you can be able to see get donor stats here. I think the other one is update. So update the donor. Don't know if I have any other function. So let me check here. So we have get donors, delete donors, get one donor, update donor, get all donors, and create donor. So this is the last one. So I'm going to come here, and we are going to have create a donor like that. So I'm not going to just make sure that this video, I don't want this video to be longer than this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to at least make sure that this video is not that long. And the last thing that I'm going to do is to make sure that I push this code to my backend, to my GitHub, sorry. So I'm going to just make sure that I add everything here like that. You can be able to see it. I'm going to make sure that I comment or commit, and then here I can say added authentication, something of the sort. You can comment anything that you want. So like that, and then I can say git push origin, and right now we are not going to push master, we are going to push the admin branch. So I think git push origin, so admin actually is backend, not admin, so sorry, so backend, because that is the branch that we created in the other video. So I'm going to add my passphrase here, and then have pushed my code like that. So I'm going to do pull request. So I'm going to come here, and then this is my GitHub. So I'm going to come here to the repos, and then we are pushing on this full stack broad donation application. And then here we can be able to just make sure that we pull request. You can see compare and pull request. And then after that, we are going to create pull request. And the last thing that we are going to do now is to make sure that we merge our branches. So it is checking merge pull request, confirm merge, and that is everything that we wanted to do right here. So if you come to the insights here and come to the network here, to the network, you'll be able to see that we have this network, that is, we have a master branch here. We created our backend here, and you can see we merged it here. So we are going to use this network also to track what we are doing. So that is it. I don't want this video to be longer than this. Make sure that you subscribe, like this video. Let me see you on the other video. Have a